With all the drama recently in the UEFN community, Epic has went out and held a live stream with Immature Gamer answering some of the most common questions and concerns the community has had. During this live stream, they also announced some improvements and features that will be coming to the ecosystem, like an XP rework finally, and really cool quality of life changes. And also some clear answers to a few things like why maps can't get into Discover, copyright, IP abuse, shadow banning, and other things like that. I got some thoughts about a few things they said, some good, some bad, so let's just get into it. The first question was, what improvements could be made to Discovery to ensure quality maps from all creators receive visibility that they deserve?
What's special about Fortnite is it is the place that's made to have fun with your friends. Not about Battle Royale. It's not about anything we at Epic particularly need or want anything. Like what has made Fortnite successful is it is an unbeatable place to go with your friends to just have fun. And as such, like the most important thing we can do when people are there is to not waste their time, to connect them with content they want, like specifically the content they want at the time they want it as fast as possible.
I think one of the big things Epic was hammering home is this idea of FPM, or fun per minute, that each player has. Like he literally just said, the #1 goal is to make Fortnite as fun as possible, and to get content into the hands of the players as quickly as possible.
I think one of the foundational challenges with Discover, which is it's all about like a player-centric view of quality, like what the players love, we want to show them, and we want to show them content that's boundary pushing and expanding the platform as well. First and foremost, we're there to try to have the Fortnite fanbase have a great time playing Fortnite that day. And I think one of the points of tension, and I think all creators experience this sometimes when they make really boundary pushing things, including Epic, is that what we think is fun and super exciting might not actually resonate with the players at the level we hope.
Now this is a good topic to talk about. And when I made my video about the lack of discoverability for more unique, innovative maps in Discover, I had a few people in the comments mention that quality is subjective and what creators see as quality doesn't equal what players believe to be quality. Now this is true, but in my opinion there are a few issues with thinking this way, and MacJack put it pretty well on Twitter, so I'll just reiterate what he said because this is pretty much what I think about it. If Epic are shaping UEFN purely around player behavior, and that behavior is leading to unsustainable conditions for developers, then does that not mean Epic is actively creating an environment that is bad for long-term game development? At what point does Epic take responsibility for balancing player desires with a sustainable ecosystem that truly allows creators to thrive? Right now, the people trying to build real games are being punished, while engagement farms continue to dominate Discovery. Game development is harder than TikTok, yet UEFN is actively pushing the industry into a short loop, disposable content rather than rewarding long-term high-quality projects. What is Epic doing to shift this trend instead of just riding it? I also feel that too much of the conversation is focused on preventing bad actors, but I am tired of preventative measures being prioritized over empowering the good actors. Why is Epic so focused on stopping bad when it's the good creators who need the better tools, the better monetization, and better transparency? If we are expected to adapt to player behavior, but at the same time must operate in a system that has hidden barriers like is this innovative enough to surface, then what Epic is really asking creators to do is throw in all the risk and resources into a shot in the dark. And this is pretty much what I think too, so I'm just gonna leave that there. I don't think I could have said it better myself. Epic also then later reiterates that they're going to go more into personal recommendations in Discover.
This year, trying to really keep pushing on for you, that kind of top chunk of Discover, it's different for all of our players. We know we have a long ways to go there, and we want to keep sharpening that to basically promote quality. The analogy I use is like a garden left untended ends up with like weeds everywhere, and we want to ensure that like great plants that are distinct and trying to do the right thing and iterate over time to make something amazing have a chance to get that for you exposure. We want to try to, this is an announcement, and the team building it, hopefully they know about it, but we want to add the option to indicate you're not interested in a recommendation, just so we feed you something that isn't a good match. We want to make sure you can tell us that.
A button for I'm not interested would be great. YouTube does it, and it's a great way to say that the content you currently see on Discover is not what you want to see. I know I go on about player recommendations, but for them to actually work, there needs to be ways for the players to engage with Discover to actually fine-tune that, be it liking and favoriting, playing the maps for a long time, or something else.
And to Ken's point, 2 years ago, I announced or created on a stream inadvertently, because I really believe that like a big part of like when we say Discover needs to be better, period, is our inability to allow creators to do a lot of the work themselves on how they build their community, how they speak to their community, how they update their community. A way out of this sort of single view into our ecosystem is to allow creators to cultivate their view.
Favorite creator is also great. Again, personalization in Discover is very nice, and they go on later to mention that quality maps can be found better with favorite creator, which is also very true. Some maps never hit Discovery, and some go multiple maps without hitting Discovery. Is there such a thing as shadow banning?
Unequivocally, we do not shadow ban creators. We don't even have who the creator is as something we can use in the algorithm to create those rows. I don't know Sax about to add anything, but
the very act of trying to pick and not pick like islands is, I don't know, it's something we take very serious. And as such, like there's the team that does that includes legal representation and everybody else that, like for fairness reasons, that what we do should objectively be the right thing to feature at that moment with the criteria we picked. So shadow banning would go directly against that.
In my opinion, I don't think shadow banning is a thing in Discover. I just think the systems for showcasing maps are so bad that it makes it seem like you're getting shadow banned. And Epic did also say in an old blog post that shadow banning wasn't a thing, but it's nice to reiterate that. The next question was about spam maps, and to paraphrase the question, it was sort of like this: do spam maps get treated the same like any other map?
So the last question was about a creator level shadow ban, and that's something that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
We do have spam filters in place because, as people like to point out on Twitter, there are creators who submit thousands of islands, and they're basically copy and pasting the same thing over and over and submitting it over and over.
Yeah.
And so we do have filters for those islands. It's never at a creator level. It's looking at that island level. And if your island looks like something that has been copy and pasted and you've not really done anything to it, you may be flagged by that filter. And we look at the content in the island, the process you took in building that island, as well as like certain mechanics from your editor and from the Creative 1.0 editor, so we can understand what's actually going on in there. Is this one of 3,000 copy and paste, or is this a real attempt to make a great game?
It's great to know spam filters are in place, but a part of me wants to know and understand what exactly determines if a map is good or not. I understand that Epic most likely didn't go into details, as you know, probably bad actors are going to use the details to their own benefit to min-max how they abuse Discover, etc. More of details and feedback on this filter, maybe in the creator portal, would be nice. The next question was on moderation and automation. How much of moderation is actually automated?
We do use a lot of automation tools, obviously, that we get. I don't remember the number of submissions a day. Do you remember that, Kit?
It's thousands.
In the thousands, yeah. I think it's like 500 to 1,000 new islands and a multiple of that in updates. And each one of those get human eyes on it. Like, so it's not like we've chosen so far, and that might change in the future, but right now there's human moderation on every single moderation decision. So we do use we use tools to make that faster, obviously, because again, thousands of iterations every day. Like, we can't possibly exhaustively scan every asset that's in there. So we use tools for that. And we're always trying to get better at that, obviously, and have better tools that detect easier, all that stuff. But there's always a human involved if there's a moderation decision.
So the takeaway here is that there's a lot of auto moderation because of thousands of maps being uploaded daily, but all of them are at least seen once by human eyes. Now, obviously, Epic needs to use automation to scale moderation because there's just so many maps. Now, Epic does go into IP later, so I'm just going to wait to say my thoughts about it.
And on the AFK coin stuff, I have a touch more context there. Not expert, but a little more context. That was thousands and thousands of islands to burn down after that decision came out, which is why it was possible to find islands that hadn't been hit yet. And to Sax's point, human review is part of the process. And while I also love the idea of being able to Thanos snap and everything disappears, it's a burn down process, not like a line in the sand, everything gone because of that human review nature.
They go on to make a good point about how as much as idealistic it is to just say Thanos snap all rule breaking maps, in reality XP coin maps etc still break through because of human reviews. And like they said, it's a burn down process. You have to it's a process, you know. Now my one question is, if all maps are getting human reviews, or how come copyright infringement and unreliable content is not immediately removed when, let's say, the human reviewer is apparently seeing every single map, sees the map, due to it, breaking creator TOS? It's just a question. Anyways, the next question was, are there any plans to introduce stronger moderation or curation to prevent bad actors from exploiting the system?
What I can say from a Discover perspective, one of the drivers of satisfaction that we talk about, and if you saw the Unreal Fest talk or our documentation, we care about for every island the attraction, the engagement, and the satisfaction. Basically, did you click on it, did you play it, and did you have fun? In the simplest terms. When we find clickbait that promises one thing, a fantasy that the island then fails to deliver on, we see that island tend to struggle with satisfaction-oriented metrics, meaning that was I as a player, did I feel good about the time I spent on these maps? And I think over the course of this year, and even in the last couple of weeks, we want to keep up dialing as we gain confidence in our measures of satisfaction and give you transparency in the creator portal and how you're doing there. We want to up dial that satisfaction knob to ensure that just because you get someone to click on you doesn't mean that that's a great game. And we want to ensure that we're basically taking that more holistic view.
To be honest, I don't really agree with Epic here. Rule-breaking IP infringement maps do tend to not be liked by more players, but some definitely are. And then what then? Do these maps get to stay alive because they're performing well, despite the fact they have broken countless rules?
At the end of the day, exactly what Kit said, we try to err on the side of what a player is telling us. The brand rules exist to know there shouldn't be any stealing of thumbnails. Agreed. We have the what's it called? The original
asset enforcement process, or it's
something like that. Yes.
Yeah.
An impossible acronym. But why is it there? It's there so creators can say, you know what, this is my thumbnail. I developed this. This is important to me. And have a process for if that's actually what's happening, for us to take that down. So that's the one side of it. If it's we have a process for IP infringement, for example, all those things are in place, but they're not something you can ask a moderator sitting and reviewing an island to say, that moderator won't know, is this thumbnail originally from this person or that person necessarily, or does it actually infringe? It's tough to know. And part of it relies on vigilance on the creator side, and our promise is that we act on them and we review them. So we've had and a tremendous amount of reports like using that original asset reporting, and we've done a lot of actions from that.
True, while it is tough to know when it comes to creator thumbnails, I don't think that means we can automatically assume mostly every single copyright map is from a creator who has the right to the IP they are using. But then again, how would you prove that, let's say, this random map on Discover is actually an official collab with Family Guy and not just copyright infringement? I'm not sure, to be honest, but I don't think automatically assuming it's fine is a good way to go about it. I think there should be systems in place to register if you have IP access or something like that, like a license. Other than that, you're gonna get strike down. There are ways to show that you own the IP. So let's say, for example, if you're publishing a map with IP, let's say in the licensing and attributions, you can put your license that gives you access to using Family Guy, for example, in your map. So maps that don't have the license and published with copyrighted things, then the human reviewers will then know that the map they don't actually have the rights to use that. It's similar to how Content ID works on YouTube, just something like that. Anyways, next up was, will stricter measures be put in place to ban rule breakers and prevent them from making new accounts?
We try our best to make it because of the way you register a new account or whatever. You need to have a tax ID in order to be a registered creator. The threshold is reasonably high to be to have multiple accounts. But there's no effective way we could say, if you had this account now, you made this new email with this new name. There's no way for us to know that. That's just not. So at the end of the day, though, those accounts, what they make in the end, we should catch that and we should not feature it. That's really what we have to. We have to be better at not banning the person, because that's a really difficult, almost impossible task.
I think a good way would be IP bans, like how Epic done with the competitive community. Like they said, the bar is high, but more bars after someone breaks the rules would be very nice.
The other thing is we do a lot more. We started in December, I think it was, to action off platform for scammy videos that are pushing players to maps. So there really was nothing wrong with the map itself, but there's a false promises about XP or exploits or whatever it is with videos that sit on TikTok, YouTube, or whatever. And we've same thing. We've gone out and issued takedowns on I don't remember, 1,200 videos.
So yeah, it's great to know that off-platform scams, like those people on TikTok live streaming getting thousands of fake XP and then showing the map code on another screen, are getting punished for what they do. I know there's similar cases. All wins here, in my opinion.
If we do a job and get people to favorite the creators they like, well, the chances of you seeing scammy maps goes way down, right? If we have strong signal about what you're looking for, it's a lot easier for us to serve up the right content.
Which is also true. More personalization and favoring creators can filter out most of the bad, and lets you see mostly quality maps that are quality in relation to the person who are playing the maps. So if Discover is not exactly looking good for you, favorite creators, engage with the systems, and eventually you'll shape it to what you want it to be. One issue though is that these systems are a bit limited in what they can do, but Epic did say they are investing more into this. So hopefully recommendations, personalization, favoring creator, all of that becomes the main focus.
And to really nail that point, right? We want, the big thing we're shifting with recommendations is trying to take that holistic view of quality, adding in satisfaction, adding in engagement, not just clicks, not just click-through rate or conversion against an audience, and really trying to make that reflect your holistic map in all the way we know how to understand it. And we're working right now very closely with the creator portal to get that data of how are you doing on these core metrics of engagement, attraction, and satisfaction with your island on a very updated, rapid basis. Because we want to make sure you understand, it shouldn't be a mystery of those legs of the stool. Where is your island strong? Where is it weak? Where are there opportunities to invest? And we want to really try to demystify that with both transparency on the creator portal side, and then making sure Discover is living up to that promise of surfacing the content that is holistically high quality for that audience.
Again, like you literally just said, recommendations, holistic view, and stress out what you want by adding in different metrics that measure that.
We're not super public around when we take a large demonetization action against people who are breaking the rules in egregious fashion, things like botting, etc. But that is something that does happen behind the scenes in terms of if you massively break the rules, your odds of getting a payout. This is not, if you are a creator trying to make a living, you should not massively break the rules. That is going to end badly for you.
I just want to say here, I really do love the communication. Botting is being dealt with, but again, it would be nice to know these things before I make a video complaining about it, you know what I mean? Just more communication in general is what Epic needs to do with creators. The next question wasn't really phrased like this, but it's basically this. Will competitive style bans where creators need to publicly apologize ever be a thing?
So unfortunately, I don't know that that's that there's been obvious cases where we could do what they did in Fortnite Creative, and I don't know if it's warranted, honestly. I think it's a small enough problem, and we feel like we have a pretty good handle on it now, and we feel really good that we're not rewarding it. We have good mechanisms to sort of siphon all that engagement back and distribute it amongst all of the creators. To be clear, engagement that happened on any fraudulent activity, that money gets put back in the pool and it gets divided up by the rest of creators.
So basically their point is that some issues are not that big of a deal, and it comes off of a bit as unwarranted to publicly apologize, which I also think is a bit harsh, but anyways. Next up was, what's your thoughts on map publishing limits?
So every time we think we have a proposal for that, somebody proves us wrong. We'll go and test we have like part of the group is creator relations, and they have like they can do spot check to the creators that we're pretty close with, to just hear, like even for unreleased features, to just ask, hey, how would this sit with you? And generally, every time we come up with something around throttling, it's no, that wouldn't, like, that would really screw us up.
Which makes sense. I know a lot of people do want publishing limits. It will fix a lot of the problems with Discover and everything. But also, like you just said, adding these limits can restrict huge brands from making a lot of experiences. Even I make Dreamlands, and that tends to be me uploading like about 10 maps at once. There's a lot of different situations, and like they said, it can screw up and not be a good idea. I think 10 maps a month is probably the best though. I don't think anyone besides spammers are making that much, but we'll see. Next up was, what is Epic doing about the increasing number of asset resellers and IP theft in Fortnite creative?
We take them down whenever we see them immediately. So that's one. Like when they're reported, but I don't have a ton of data on that.
Yeah, it's also a bit out of my wheelhouse. What I'd offer is that just because, again, you can find a live link to something, when you want to take something down and be confident we're taking down the right thing, you need to investigate. You need to figure out what's going on. And so going back to the analogy of the Thanos snap, which I wish could exist, oftentimes when there are records of this or this is going on, there's broader investigations happening in the background that take a couple weeks or to make sure that we have conviction. This is like a true thing that is happening in this specific instance, rather than erring on the side of taking something down or applying pressure on something that actually is legitimate and we're just misunderstanding. And so that's where I think as well, the Thanos snap versus the gradual approach tends to be a thing.
So yeah, Epic does go after these creators, but like before, you can't just get rid of all of them immediately. You need conviction, and it takes time to take action.
We have a known issue that we are trying to plug as fast as we can around how we can scrape data. You can't scrape code, so you can't scrape the setup or verse or anything. Yeah. So at the end, you can get assets, like raw assets. I'm sure that helps you make an island. We shouldn't do it, but there's no way to copy an island per se. So we take it very serious. We're hoping we can do this systematically by essentially closing the gap. Believe it hurts us too. Like when we released Ballistic in December, like that island was scraped. I don't know, like a couple of days before when it sat and was ready to get published, and the whole island gets put out, but a whole bunch of things missing, and it just puts us in a bad light. Like, it sucks. Like,
Epic goes on to say that it's difficult to stop this from happening, and that like a lot of people in the community, there are also victims of it, like what happened with Ballistic. But like they said, not all the map can be copied. Stuff like verse code and a few other things are safe, and hopefully Epic does have a way to stop it from happening. I'm sure they probably didn't say anything there because they didn't want people to know how they're actually going to stop it from happening, but hopefully they have something. Anyways, next question was about something big, the XP rework. Could XP calibration be reworked to prevent exploitation, ensuring that payouts are based on genuine player engagement rather than easy manipulated metrics?
Yeah, absolutely. And in addition to the off-platform work Sax was referencing, where we're trying to take more seriously when people are basically lying to players online, you can earn super fast XP because you know calibration is going to catch that in a second. We are currently in the process of reworking the XP system. You don't want to over-punish the small creators that have a passionate audience of 200 players or whatever it may be. We want to make sure they can give accolades XP, they can reward gameplay. That's a key part. Some people will say revert to playtime XP. It's like, no, we want you to be able, if you get a pentakill or some amazing thing on a map, we want to be able to have that player have an awesome experience. It's like, wow, I did something great. I got XP for it. As we've actually in the background tried to make it easier to calibrate. We started this about a year ago, and we've seen a huge increase. We used to, this time last year, we had 2,000 islands that were calibrated and could give accolades. Now we're north of 5,000 islands that can give XP and in that calibrated sense. And in the background, we're working on a basically rework to the backend system to ensure that we can basically make it a smoother process and also make it a tighter process.
So a lot of the community has said that standardizing XP is the way to go with just playtime rewards. I agree, as that's really the only way to make XP completely not exploitable at all. But I think Epic's philosophy is more in the sense that the actual player feedback is better when you do something like when you beat a level or something that gives you XP feedback from the accolade device. It's just better and more engaging and more rewarding for the players. So in a sense, there is a bit of balancing you need to do there to make sure it's fun and rewarding, but also not exploitable.
We're working to broaden the tools that make like quests in general, like the things, like what are the mechanisms by which you can give XP? By now they're pretty primitive. So the goal is that you can make the quests are featured all the way to the front end, like any other, like the quest that we do in Battle Royale. And if you follow a map, if you're playing a map, those quests essentially it becomes part of the ways you can get XP naturally is from all the creator maps.
And this is a great change. Putting XP rewards into the quest tab for the map where you'd find all of the other quests, like for Battle Royale and other modes, is such a great way to incentivize players to play your map. One issue though is it can also be easily exploited, but we'll see. Next up, they went on to answer questions from the live chat, and here's the first one. Are you guys looking at potentially adding a rating system to help the average player know what experiences are good to play? As such, if so, how would you stop it from being abused?
It's funny, they just pointed out why it's so hard to add a rating system.
Yeah.
I saw Word Andrew ask this in a really thoughtful way as well. Yeah. Listen, we are always looking for ways to understand quality better. This time last year, we didn't have recommend to a friend. We didn't have favorite a creator. We didn't have a bunch of systems that are kind of one step there. We're always looking at better ways to identify quality. The hard part with the rating system is exactly what the question describes, is that they're prone to brigading. They're prone to people trying to manipulate it and try to do really negative things with it. And so, of course, we want to find ways to showcase content to players that they feel confident clicking on. This is a great game. This is worth my time. I thought Nick 830 had some really thoughtful feedback here as well on Friday of, it's 5 minutes to get into a game. How do I up that conviction that this is a good use of my time? It's something we think about a lot. I think ratings are one lever there, but it's one that has such an obvious and challenging shadow side to it that we're trying to think of other alternatives.
Personally, I would think a rating system would be great. And there are preventative measures you can take to stop the brigading too. Maybe you need to play a map for a certain amount of time to unlock their ability to review it or something like that. Again, like they just said, it's hard to not mess up. Next up was something with recent contention in the community. Why was the recent change to the new and updated tab implemented?
Essentially, as the ecosystem has grown and we have a lot more creators and a lot more content, we were struggling to keep up with new and updated games coming in that we wanted to give exposure to, that had no users or no impressions that we need to give a chance to. When we really dug into the problem from like kind of a first principles, get down to basics perspective, we found that thanks to an issue with our data pipeline, we were rotating games actually way too slow. We were massively over testing games that were in there. Meaning, and what I mean by that, we can basically understand whether you are going to be a game players love with around 50,000 impressions, give or take. That's our kind of our current watermark. We were given games that had no data around them or no evidence they were good or bad, upwards of 300,000 impressions for their test. And as we had all these games that were legitimate and were falling through the cracks and weren't getting any exposure, we were like, the much better option is to ensure we give a solid test that's accurate about every game, and be able to give twice as many games or 3 times as many games a chance. Thanks to those changes, we've seen, upwards of like at 100%, as of now, we hope that goes higher, but 100% lift in the amount of those new and updated games we can give a chance to every day. We went from right around 500 a day to nearly 1,000 plus a day, which is trying to keep up with that rate of islands and the rate of large updates coming in about islands people are still making big changes to. So I understand it stinks that you used to get 1,000 CCU if you were new and updated, but the goal of that row isn't trying to get you a huge audience. It's trying to understand, is this a most engaging game, a top rated game, a for you recommendation, a browse category, all that stuff.
So again, he literally just said that the tab is designed to test maps in Discover and see if certain maps stand out. He also mentioned how the amount of maps being tested have doubled, meaning more maps have a chance to get into Discover. One issue I do have with this is what players see. They see about 40 maps on their screen. I went over this in my video the other day, but if you're a player and you see this, it's going to be overwhelming and hard to find something you actually want. A better way to do this would be, again, recommendations. Instead of needing to test 40 maps with 20-minute intervals, test 8 to 12 new maps based on recommendations. It's hard for new maps to stand out because, I mean, look at this. The chance of someone actually picking your map is dwarfed. A new and updated based on your recommendations is how you go about it, in my opinion. YouTube doesn't have a tab where every single new video is featured in 20-minute intervals for a reason. It doesn't work. Chances are, if 39 out of the 40 maps here are maps I don't want to play, I'm not going to play the 1 in the 40 map that is interesting. I'm just going to move on to a different tab, leading to all 40 of those maps suffering impressions-wise. There need to be, in my opinion, a new and updated tab to test impressions on people who actually can see your thumbnail nice and big on the screen. You are also more inclined to actually play it too, so people out there with similar interest will, after it passes the testing phase, can find it in their regular recommendations too, whether this map is a red versus blue or the highest quality map you ever seen in your life. In my opinion, it's just hard for unique quality maps that certain people want to find to shine out and actually be discovered and discover.
We will very soon, this month, knock on wood, into Creator Portal. Like once we finish that test and it blasts, you will get the result of that, like called out in Creator Portal that said, this is what happened. This is the click-through rate on your thumbnail. This is the the session length. This is the retention will come the next day of people that came back to your island. So you get a much better chance to see this is how my island performed when a lot of people saw it.
Discover test results are extremely useful, and this sort of goes into the next thing, so I'm not going to get into it just yet. Some people are reporting that they publish their map but never see light of day in new and updated. Can you give us any insight to that?
Yeah, and it goes back to like basically one, if we don't have enough capacity, we just can't get to every game, which is why these changes were so important in terms of trying to basically increase that capacity there. So that's one big driver. The other, you look like you are a legitimate game, meaning that you are kind of passing the filter for not being a low effort, copy and paste, nothing done to the island game, or very little done to the island game. We're seeing upwards of like 97% of those games get to 50,000 impressions within their first week. The big thing though is I know as a creator, it's very unsatisfying to be like, there is this black box filter that is trying to detect whether my island is legitimate or not. And you can understand that by making that a transparent box, we will let the person sending 3,000 games to us abuse our systems. We have to figure out that cat and mouse game there. But essentially, one is we're out of capacity and we were unable to get to it. The other is that the island doesn't look like it's been a legitimate attempt, which means you should go and basically update the island and try to basically build more or make the island more feature rich in some capacity to basically increase your chances.
So Epic are essentially saying that if you don't get into Discover, you should try to either update your map later, try and get another spot in Discover, or make your island appear and look better so the systems in place to display undeveloped maps don't get triggered on your map. Now again, I would like more clarification, but like he said, making the box transparent will make bad actors know how to abuse Discover, which is a fair reason not to get into details about it.
But we're seeing so much engagement with favorite a creator, and we're seeing just a couple thousand favorites can basically, you can just skip new content testing. You don't even need it because you can just launch your game and get reasonable concurrent users if your fans choose to engage with it. And I think that's the scaled solution long term, is matching content with their fans rather than trying to do blind algorithm for everyone trying to, it's like the YouTube subscriber feed versus YouTuber. Here's a random video with no views. What sounds compelling to you?
Which is extremely true. That's why favoriting creators is important, because features like that can instantly bypass things like testing and Discover and make your map stand out to the algorithm, granting that glorious access to some other tab, anything other than new and updated. That's why you should play all the maps from the creators you love to help them out in the ecosystem.
Ideally, we will also tell you before that it happens, so it's scheduled. That's part of on the roadmap of what we want to signal to creators, that we will test on this time, we will start testing, we will get like the 50,000 impressions, and then at that point you get inserted into the rows you would get into organically anyways, right? And you get that test back, because then you can go and promote it on your socials. You can sort of be part of pushing at the same time as we're serving impressions, and you get the test afterwards. I think from us, the most important thing is that we give the data back in a way you can iterate. Right? That's really what matters.
And this is honestly the best feature they announced during this stream, in my opinion. And notice, to let you know that your map is about to hit Discovery is extremely good. As like you said, you can boost it in the testing phase by telling your audience, hey, my new map is out, etc. And it's not like, oh wait, I got Discover at 3 AM last night for 20 minutes, I had no idea. Like I said earlier, more feedback and results immediately out of Discover test your map also is incredibly useful. All around great quality of life features here.
I think as well, my dream as well, I have many dreams, but one dream is that as a creator, it's not a binary that I'm in Discover or out of Discover. Impressions should be like a knob that modulate up and down over time. And we're going to give you impression source in the creator portal really soon. And I'm really excited for people to see how powerful For You is. There are amazing games that basically, if you look on Fortnite.gg, you're not going to see any tabs in it, but they're getting hundreds of thousands, if not millions of impressions a day from that For You spot, because they have a niche audience that's awesome and loves their game. And long term, as we want Fortnite to be a place for all gamers, it'll become an ever more important way. And these binary in or out algorithms where I'm either in motion engaging or I'm not, I'm in top rated or I'm not, we know that's a jagged edge solution, and one that doesn't scale to 200,000 islands. And so that's where a lot of kind of perpetual investment comes in there.
Impression source, more features that help creators understand how they're doing, is number one and gives them avenues to improve. I don't see any issues with this. Now there's one last question. What is Epic's long-term vision for UEFN over the next 5 years, and how will monetization tools and discovery evolve to ensure a sustainable ecosystem?
Like the vision is to make continue to expand Fortnite ecosystem, like Fortnite broadly, to be for every gamer on every platform, right? So that's one side. The other side of it is that the tools can make any game you would want to make. Right now they don't. Like we're still, like we have a tremendous challenge on just getting the platform to both be stable on one side, expand in functionality in the other side, and build for the future. We're building something that is like the foundation of not just of Epic, but what we believe is like a large, scalable substrate of content. Like it just takes time, right? So 5 years from now, we hope, like from an Unveil perspective, that you click a publish and say, I want to publish into the Fortnite ecosystem, I want to publish on my own into Epic Game Store or whatever it's standalone thing. But it's the same engine essentially. Like that's a big part of it, is closing the feature gap on that, and then changing how development works into sort of a modern, scalable world where you can imagine thousands of players going between millions of pieces of content. Like are there going to be new monetization options later? Yeah, there will be. But for now, we think avoiding sort of the pitfalls of a pay-to-play is just really, really important to us. How we're going to get players of all shapes and sizes, ages, come in and fall in love with what hundreds of millions of people have already fallen in love with. It's to understand that we have a responsibility as we grow this to the platform in order to get the engine in order to get motivation, discover, like all pieces of it. Yeah, like you should scrutinize us. You should be upset when we make mistakes, because it's built for you. Like it's not built just for Epic. Like certainly not.
Expanding Fortnite to every gamer is what it should be. Like he said, you can't make any game you want to make. And I'm glad Epic understands and realizes that. Hopefully, it's going to take less than 5 years to get improvements to finding niche, unique games and audiences who enjoy that. So we shall see. Again, we're still in the early stages and we're building long-term to a good, sustainable ecosystem where everyone, creators and players, can make and find what they want and not be forced to conform or fit into molds. But of course, you can still confirm all you like and players can still obviously play slop like red versus blue box fights, etc. I guess one of the misconceptions of my last video is that I want all games on Discover to not be quote unquote slop. Slop as in what you'd usually see like red versus blues, box fights, etc. Which is not true. There can be really fun maps out there that are red versus blues, quote unquote slop maps that players really enjoy. I just want the stuff on Discover to appeal to who is playing it, because right now we can't facilitate a huge number of the portion of players who maybe don't want to play the 600th red versus blue that released today. There are huge audiences out there who would be playing Fortnite, but only if they can just discover the stuff that interests them. But oh well. Overall, some things I wish had more clarity, some philosophies in Epic I don't agree with. Overall, great stream, and finally some good communication Epic, and some really good features announced like XP Reworks and Discover testing feedback and notice and more. Let me know what all you think about it. So anyways, that's it for me. Remember to like, subscribe, use my code in the Fortnite shop. Thank you to all the members of the channel, and remember to watch all of these videos for more of my news and commentary videos. That's about it. I will see you all now.